Right, next drawing that we're going to look at is concrete block and beam floors. Now, the first thing I want to say with these is, this is for concrete block and beam, and all measurements when you start are taken from the outside of the internal wall. So just for an example, if you look at the top, that section AA, the blue, the bit coloured in blue, that's your block, and you can see that the grey block is sitting on top of that. Okay, some people, they'll take a measurement from the face of the block to their beam and they go wrong. So never go from the face, go from the back of the block. That's where your measurements are taken. That's the first thing I want to say. Right, so now if we go back to this is your basic block and beam drawing. Now, all of the lines represent beams. All of the numbers represent spaces between the beams. The numbers represent the bays. So each length will be associated with a bay. And then the letters are associated with a section, which is what this little bit is up the side here. So when we're looking at this, what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to think, what bay are we working in? Okay, so you find which, so we'll take this bay here, bay 1. And then we're going to go over to the right of the drawing, which you couldn't see in that first one. And in here, you just have the schedule. It looks complicated, it's not. So you have bay, which we just looked at. So you go bay 1, number just tells you how many beams are within that bay. What type of beam, doesn't matter too much. Then it tells you the length of the bay. Now that's important. So when you're sorting out your beams, you'll say, right, bay 1, we need a length of 2 meters 900. Okay? And then that's it really. Then you've got bay 2, bay 3, bay 4, bay 5, bay 9, and it just tells you how many are in there and the length. So that is literally half of it done already. Just to add something to that quickly, so also in the reference box, if you're over a certain span, normally it's 5 meters, then you go from the standard beams or the light beams up to the 9-inch beam. So you'll see there in the reference, it says 9-inch. So just watch out for that, because if you're looking for a beam that's a certain length and you don't realise it's actually the bigger beams. So just wanted to add that in there. So then the next thing, and probably a really important thing, is knowing where to start from. So I like to always start from a full block. So if you look at this little section key at the side here, you can see that section AA is a 440mm block. 440mm is the size of a full block, okay? So ideally, we want to be starting on an area which is section AA, okay? Section BB, it says it's a cut. So like that you see here, it says BB. You wouldn't really want to start there, because that wants to be the end. You want to be starting where you've got a full block to go off. If we go back to this drawing, you can see here, you've got section AA. It says 440 up there. So what you can do is you can just place a full block on top of the internal block work, and you can set your first beam to those blocks, okay? Once you've done that, you can then space each of these beams accordingly with the numbers that are in between these lines. So everywhere it says 440 is going to be a full block. So you'll literally just use the blocks to space them. Some people will do it with a tape measure, which you can do, but the problem with that is it gets it there or thereabouts. But if you have that set, and say for example you decide to like cut the ends, when you start putting your blocks in, they're going to run tight. I always find it better just to put the blocks in. They've got to go in anyway. So you're going to run full blocks all the way until you get to here where it says 300. So you'll obviously stop there. Then you will need to get your tape measure. Then you'll measure 300 for your next beam, and then you'll go 440 again. And then once you get to your last full block, because it's 440, it's all the way to the end, then it says there should be 160mm cut there. That might be 165, it might be slightly different, but that doesn't matter too much, okay? The main thing is you've gone all the way along, you've got to the end, and then you've got your cut, which is like section B, which is going to show you how to do it there. So that cut needs to go to the back of the block so that the block work can sit on top of your beam and block, okay? Right, now that's pretty much the gist of the block and beam drawing. I know some people, they hoard the block and beam drawings. I don't understand why. The only other things to note is some areas here have got double beams, so you need to be careful of that. So there'll be two beams just jointed up to each other. You can see they're denoted by like two little lines. And then some beams are spaced with a half a block. 215 mil is half block. So if you see it says 215, don't think I need to get my measure out and tape measure out and check that. That's just a block turned the other way. And that is really it. So you just find a start point. Make sure you read all of the drawing before you start, so you can just sort of see, because it's telling you what to do basically. Make sure you read this key so you can find out what size beams you need for what bay, and just take your time sorting all the beams and getting them ready. And then that is literally it. Just go along, follow your drawing and beam it out. I don't know why block and beams sort of become a job that the brickies do. For some reason the ground workers now put the beams on and then the brickies space it out, which is something that absolutely baffles me. But if you do end up doing it and you want to do it, that's how you do it.